Hi, I'm Michelle's cousin, James.
Why is he making that funny noise?
He's English, Ola. That's the way they talk. He's my Auntie Kathy's way. I told you about my Auntie Kathy. She went to England years ago to have an abortion, never came back. Never got the abortion either. Lucky for you, James, eh?
I didn't actually know that.
This is a short clip from a sitcom called Derry Girls. It's about lives of a bunch of schoolgirls in 90s. They are growing up in a town called Derry, also called as Londonderry. Derry sits on border between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. The sitcom is a fantastic comedy playing on stereotypes in 90s Ireland during the time of conflict between Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, a period also called as the Troubles. The clip indicates how common it was for women to go from Ireland to England to get an abortion. Abortion was illegal in Ireland, but in Britain, abortion has been legal since 1967. But things are changing. Women in Britain can get an abortion up to 24 weeks with permission of 2 doctors. These 2 doctors would have to agree that continuing the pregnancy is more harmful than abortion to mother's mental and physical health. But if you don't comply with these conditions, you could be jailed. That means abortion is not completely decriminalized in Britain. On the other hand, Northern Ireland has decriminalized abortion since 2020, and for getting an abortion before 12 weeks, you don't even need a medical certificate. Now, abortion intersects deeply with antinatalism. Antinatalists agree that one should not get pregnant or impregnate someone, but once one is pregnant, there are disagreements. On a Bennettarian view, it is immoral to carry the baby beyond the point when she achieves sentience or acquires morally relevant interests. Julio Cabrera, on the other hand, would oppose abortion on moral grounds at any time after conception. Most of the antinatalist crowd sits somewhere between pro-choice and Bennett's pro-death, or as I would call it, pro-abortion view. Nothing of this actually is news, so why am I talking about it? A documentary called Young, British and Anti-Abortion was recently released on BBC. Poppy J, who is the maker of the documentary, tries to explore early signs of changing landscape of the largely pro-choice British demographic. In the description it says the abortion rate in Britain is at the highest on record. While opposition to abortion remains a minority view, a recent British poll found nearly 90% of respondents saying they were pro-abortion, not to be confused with pro-death view here. Pro-abortion here just means pro-choice. Filmmaker Poppy J wants to explore whether there is a new demographic galvanizing the UK anti-abortion movement, Gen Z. The Gen Z part is important and worrisome, and that's the focus of this documentary. Eden McCourt is a TikTok influencer with 3.4 million views. She was part of this documentary because she runs abortionresistance.org.uk, which is the UK's newest youth-led, youth-focused pro-life organization devoted to ending the wide-scale crimes against humanity committed by the abortion industry. While filming for the documentary, Eden was pregnant for second time. When Eden was 3, her sister Josephine was born with Pato syndrome. Children from Pato syndrome suffer from multiple organ defects, if at all they are alive at birth. As a result, her parents were offered abortion and they didn't. Josephine lived for 4 years, but she couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't eat, and was partially blind. But according to Eden, she was a very happy child, and that was enough for Eden to be against abortion. This motivated her to be pro-life, and now she has set up this activist organization fighting against abortion called Abortion Resistance. Her organization is so focused on youth that people beyond 40 are not even allowed at their rallies. This is to break the stereotype of pro-life people being old, white, and religious. The documentary also covers a university activist, Madeline Page, who goes into universities to convince students for their fight against abortion. The number of top universities in the UK having pro-life society has recently doubled. Both Madeline and Eden admit to be religious themselves, but emphasize that their abortion stance and activism is on secular and human rights grounds. Contrast that to CBR UK, which is an offshoot of Center for Bioethical Reform in the US. It openly has a religious and quite fundamental agenda against abortion. The documentary covers their style of aggressive activism through the experience of one of their volunteers, James. The last movement that this documentary covers is that of Faith Child. Faith Child is stage name of rapper Michael, who draws crowds in thousands to his music shows. His abortion stance and activism are also motivated through Christian religion. His mother is pastor in a church in Croydon, London, but he has more nuanced approach on this issue. He talks more about empathy and compassion than about tolerance stance of abortion or anti-abortion. He understands that there could be some circumstances like sexual assault where abortion would be reasonable. Poppy J herself, who is seen filming in the documentary, confronts all these subjects with questions and makes it quite explicit that she is someone who would never want to be a mother. Britain remains largely a pro-choice country today, but with what is happening in the US and the influence that it has on the rest of the world, these early signs of change should not be ignored. If you are a Bennettarian antinatalist like me, you would be worried about what is influencing young people on these complicated moral issues like abortion. That in itself is one of the reasons to be antinatalist. Ben Ware is co-director of the Center for Philosophy and Art at King's College, London. He has written a book called On Extinction, Beginning Again at the End, and there was a talk by him about this book. The recording was published as a podcast where Ben spoke about antinatalism. The podcast in itself is about 30 minutes long, and Ben spends almost 20 minutes setting up the context for human extinction. When we think of human extinction, we also think of some kind of catastrophe causing that extinction. Ben says we are already in that catastrophe right now without realizing that we are in it.
To advocate acting as if the catastrophe is our implacable destiny is still to posit catastrophe as some existential dark cloud looming on our human horizon. But this is like the case of the obsessional neurotic patient who fears the occurrence of a terrible event in the future, a nervous breakdown perhaps, forgetting that they have already entered psychoanalytic treatment precisely because this terrible event has in fact already occurred.
That catastrophe is climate change and ecological damage. So the question is, how do we respond to it? One of the responses is ecological antinatalism, like the one promoted by Let's Unite of Voluntary Human Extinction Movement and Chris Corda's Church of Euthanasia. Humans should go extinct and let rest of the life on this planet flourish is the idea of these sorts of ecological antinatalism. Ben analyzes this in a critical tone. One reason he says for this sort of self-extinction is a desire to punish our own species for the damage that we have done. Another reason, according to him, for this self-extinction could be that it gives meaning to the lives of those who think this way. They have a cause to fight for and to die for on a collective level in form of extinction. There was a short article in the neweuropean.co.uk by Svetlana Lazareva, Putin's War on the Womb. If you love children and happen to live in Russia, the kindest thing you could do would be not to have any. Svetlana cites examples of teenagers jailed in Russia for activities like leafleting against the war or even using the word war. Even toddlers learn to sing military songs before they learn to read and write in Russian schools. She says the space in the private lives of Russian citizens where the government has not stuck its long nose has now shrunk to frighteningly small size. That has implications for people who don't want to have children, let alone take any antinatalist stance. With the cost of living now so high, many Russians can't afford to have children, and those who can hesitate knowingly that their country considers half of the planet enemies. God forbid you have a son. Will he grow up only to be sent off to fight yet another senseless war? And if you have a daughter and raise her right, who's to say she won't get arrested for saying something dangerously sensible? People in Russia feel trapped because of this. Having children is dangerous in Russia, and it is hard for them to move out as the West has introduced restrictions by blocking all credit cards and transactions with Russian bank accounts and so on. Svetlana concludes, if you love children and happen to live in Russia, the kindest thing you could do would be not to have any. Now, I don't mean to belittle the difficulties ordinary Russians are facing, but this same sentiment can easily be expanded beyond Russia to include the whole sentient condition. Elon Musk recently tweeted, instead of teaching fear of pregnancy, we should teach fear of childlessness. But unless you've been hiding in a cave for the last 4 years, this shouldn't surprise you in and of itself. Elon Musk has turned into ultra pro-natalist, has had 12 children from 3 different women. One of those children unfortunately has died. Elon has also been asking to donate his sperm on occasions like dinner parties. According to this recent article in The Guardian, he has already fathered many children. Now Musk wants all of the US to embrace extreme breeding by Arwa Mahadvi. The article cites one of Elon's partners, Grimes, who almost died during her first pregnancy. That was why she used surrogate the next time. So Elon is very aware of the difficulties that women have to go through during pregnancy. But maybe that's just anecdotal individual evidence. What about more on a collective level? Arwa says teaching people that, meaning the fear of childlessness instead of fear of pregnancy, while women die every 2 minutes due to pregnancy or childbirth, and maternal mortality rates are increasing in the US, it's childlessness you should be afraid of. It's easy for Musk, who will never have to carry any of the children he's so keen on having, to be blasé about pregnancy risks. He can outsource them all. Arwa concludes with a dire warning. The real issue is that the billionaire and his breeding obsession are a part of an incoming administration that wants to roll back reproductive rights and usher in a world where women are forced to give birth. It would be nice to be able to ignore every stupid thing that Musk tweets, but we don't have that luxury anymore. He seems intent on worming his way into our wombs. Sounds worrisome? Now, whether these warnings are just anxiety or not, only time will tell. Antinatalism, Extinction, and the End of Procreative Self-Corruption is a book by Amanda Suknik and Mati Haire. There was a short but very valuable review of this book on Cambridge.org by Sarah Diarna. It's only 2 pages short review, so anyone who is curious about the book, it would help you know what the book is about and set the correct expectations from it. Lawrence made a nice video talking about quality of life argument. The argument itself is not just for antinatalism, it tells many other things about the reality that we live in, but it also forms a strong part of arguments for antinatalism. Lawrence references many schools of thoughts, religions, and philosophers like Buddhism, Arthur Schopenhauer, and of course David Benatar, and Thupten Chordan, and so on. He also considers some objections to this argument and responds to them. It was a dense 43-minute treat to listen to and watch, so thank you, Lawrence. Last time we covered antinatalism street outreaches in London and in Japan. This time we have Stop Having Kids outreach in Poland. They had Stop Having Kids signs and placards in Polish. This is really exciting to see antinatalism being talked about in all parts of the world. There's also an unverified news from South India. Chennai, formerly known as Madras, is a capital city of the state of Tamil Nadu in India. The Greater Chennai Corporation announced the organization of special modern family welfare sterilization camps for men. These camps will be held from 28th of November to 4th of December 2024 at urban community welfare centers in 15 mandals running daily from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The procedure is simple and does not require an overnight hospital stay. Patients can return home just an hour after treatment. The government is offering an incentive of rupees 1100 for individuals who opt for the modern contraception, and 200 rupees will be provided to those who bring their spouses along. The corporation is urging men to prioritize the health of their wives and take advantage of this rare opportunity to access family planning services. So the government is paying people to get sterilized, which I think is a good thing as long as no one is forced to get sterilized. I hope this is replicated in other parts of India as well as the rest of the world.